Today I want to talk to you all about a very common issue I'm finding amongst students. And in my experience, it's causing way more problems than it's solving. What this topic is trying to keep your back to the target in the downswing. So one of the most common swing killers I see is players that they're really trying to come from the inside. So trying to hit the inside of that golf ball, but they're doing it in the wrong way. What they've heard is that they're coming over the top because they're spinning their shoulders too early. And in my experience, that generally is not the problem. The problem lies somewhere earlier on in the swing, like maybe they're not getting their pressure. They're not getting recentered early enough, so they're not shifting back to the lead side soon enough. Or they're actually throwing their arms and wrists at the golf ball out of the top. So if I swing this golf club back and I start throwing my arms and wrists at it, my chest hasn't even started to turn yet, but I'm going to hit the outside of the ball. So then they try to stay closed even more, but they're still throwing their arms and wrists at it. So the minute they start to turn, they're still outside in. And it really messes with their ability to control low point, face and path, and when the club gets longer, they have no hope. So while we often hear good players talk about the feeling of keeping their back to the target just a little longer as their arms come down,
I like to feel that I stay closed halfway down. So basically I'm feeling like my left arm is dropping down my chest as I stay closed to the target. That does a couple of things for me. It helps my rhythm, it keeps me very patient off the top of the backswing, and also it helps me keep a little bit of lag and a little bit of angle as I come down into the ball.
So in the clip we just saw, we heard Justin Rose describing the feeling of him allowing his arms to come down before he starts to turn. However, in his real golf swing, that's never happens. He actually unwinds as his arms lower. Now in the next clip, we're going to hear him discussing another feel, which is the feeling of how he allows his chest to get open and lead the golf club around so the club never flips over.
And then the little ingredient that I add is my right ear goes to the ground because that keeps the head moving, which keeps my torso moving. And basically, if for me, if the body is always turning ahead of the club's never going to turn over. You're never going to flip it. The club only flips when the body stops and all the energy goes into the club head.
One interesting thing to keep in mind when professionals talk about feels is those feels are not always constants. They vary depending on the time of their career and what they're struggling with. So we'll often see a player talking about the feeling of lowering the arms, and then a few months later, maybe talk about the feeling of leaving their arms up and getting their chest around. Both are feelings that can work and have worked for many of these players. So keep in mind, those are just feels. The things that really make these players good is their ability and awareness of where the club is in space and their ability to move through the strike. The one commonality amongst really good players that I see is they have really good pivots, which means that they do get pressure recentered and back to their lead side early enough. And I never see a good player, a really like tour player, hit a golf ball with their chest pointing at the camera. Where on my lesson tee, that's a daily occurrence. And in my online academy, we see golfers every day, multiples, with their chests actually pointing somewhere well behind the golf ball at contact. A lot of it is because they've struggled so much with a slice that they're trying to hit the inside of that golf ball, but coming at it from the wrong direction. So now I'd like to share with you a better way, in my opinion, how we can still come from the inside, but allow our chest to actually rotate open while doing it. So let's walk through some of the keys here. Key number one, we need to make enough wind up and we need to get ourselves recentered so we're not going to spin on our back foot. We're going to wind, land into the lead foot. And once I've landed into my lead foot, now I'm free to start to unwind and get out of the way if I do the next couple things. So the next thing we've got to make sure we're doing is in transition, I can't start to apply an outward force with my hands and arms. If I apply a force that's going out in front of me, this club is moving in front of me, and now I'm going to be wiping across that golf ball. So that feeling makes me need to keep my chest closed longer. So we want to avoid that. What we want to do instead is we want to allow the club center of mass to almost fall back. So my trail arm is going to feel like it's actually going this direction, not that direction. So it's going away from the ball and allowing me to turn. And maybe the most important key is the face. The face cannot be too open. If that face is too open, your subconscious is going to come up with a plan to square it, which generally will entail you throwing that club out. If that is the case, you're going to want to keep your back to the target longer. But if this club is square, now everything's loaded up in a situation where I can just turn my chest through, and you can see that club is still coming from the inside. Where if I apply this force, no matter how much I keep my back to the target, that club is still cutting across the ball. Now the interesting thing is, this concept of getting the chest to actually open up relative to the target, the ball, that target, works across all sports, from hockey to tennis to baseball. All athletes are allowing and even driving the golf swing, or the motion that they're doing, with chest rotation. So I want to encourage you all to get past the fear of turning your chest. And I'm going to show you a little exercise that will help you do just that. So here's what this exercise is. It's a little pump and go. And in this drill, so I'm going to wind up. Now as I change directions, I'm going to feel lead arm stretching up, center mass working back, trail arm working under. Now I'm loaded. Now from here, we're just going to give it a little motion and get our chest to turn through. And so we're driving that motion with actual chest turn. And once you can do it with a little break in it, where you turn it up, flex it down, pump and hit it, then the goal is to eventually learn to tie it into all one motion where you're getting that to happen. So we're winding it up, letting that center of mass work back as our chest works around. And that's the goal. So hopefully you like this video, you learned something, you realize that chest rotation isn't the cause of coming over the top for most of us. And you learn to embrace it and apply the matchups needed so you can use your chest rotation to swing like an athlete. Come on over, visit us at milolinesgolf.com, where we can help you learn the matchups that you need to be able to apply these principles.